I'm Mikaela, and this is Love Mikaela, a podcast where I talk about literally anything and everything I want to. Today, I wanted to talk about the Korean reality show called 19 to 20. It's on Netflix if you would like to go watch it. I just recently rewatched it with my younger sister, so that's why I thought it would be fun to talk about. I'm not going to go too in-depth on things because it's not like a K-drama, it's a reality show, so I'm going to go into spoiler territory later on, just know that, but I'll make sure to mark it in there and I'll let you guys know ahead of time when I'm in the spoilers. But so I'm just going to give you a little kind of synopsis of what the show is about. 19 to 20 is a Korean reality show where 19-year-olds, 4 boys and 4 girls, start the journey of adulthood together. So they start at school 19 where they take classes about being adults. So they learn about stuff like taxes, cooking, they learn about makeup even, travel tips, relationships, like all kinds of stuff that you wish you'd been taught in high school but weren't actually taught. You know, important life things that we probably should have been taught in high school or college. We should be taught these things, but we're not. Anyway, that's what they learn in school 19. And the only rule for the school, I mean, obviously you should be going to your classes. They're all like, you're on camera the whole time, so like they know that they have to. Anyway. The only rule for the school is that you cannot date while you are at school 19, which of course adds a little tension. They're teenagers, young adults. It's 4 boys and 4 girls, you know. And on New Year's Eve, they move from school 19, like they've been going to school 19 but living back home with their parents, and they move into house 20, which is where they're going to spend their first week as adults together in a new space. And there's no more rules now. There's not a no dating rule when you enter house 20 because you are fully adults now, so they're not going to give you that rule anymore. I also didn't mention that school 19, they're there for about a week, so the whole show takes course over the span of about 2 weeks, which isn't a lot of time. And like that's something I had to keep reminding myself while I was watching the show, was like, we're like, when we watched it, we're seeing each, I think there's 13 episodes, not I think, I know there are 13 episodes of the show, and each episode is close to an hour. Some of them go a little over an hour, but most of them are around an hour, like the hour mark. So we're seeing this over like this extended period, like we're watching it like, you know, as time goes on. And I think when I first watched it, I was watching it like as it was coming out. There was a lot of time in between this, but you have to remind yourself like this is taking place for them over the span of literally just 2 weeks, which is a very short amount of time. So there's a lot of feelings, a lot of emotions, a lot of big things happening. And also they're young adults and they're just becoming legal, I guess, adults. They're going from 19 to 20, and 20 is like the age of adults in Korea. And so it's like a big deal for them. So there's a lot going on. The show explores basically just what it's like to grow older, relationships that you form with other people around your own age, and how you can kind of learn and grow with the other people that are around you as you're learning what it's like to enter this new stage of your life. And so the official age system in Korea was recently changed, like I believe within the last year or two, I think. Listen, time is crazy for me. The new year is crazy. Like time flies for me now. But it was recently changed, but a lot of Koreans still kind of not follow, but they still like talk about, and I don't want to say follow because that makes it sound like it's a big deal. It's not. A lot of them still like what's the word for it? A lot of Koreans still kind of observe the old system for age. And this show actually came out before that system was changed. So now the Korean age system is just the same as international age, I believe. I haven't done a ton of research into this, so don't quote me on that. But the old system was that when it became the new year, you would become 1 year older regardless of when your actual like birth date was. And so everyone who's born in the same year, they're all the same age essentially. So like New Year's Eve, like after it hits midnight and it's the new year, everyone who was 19 is now 20 years old, and like it's a really exciting thing because you're adults now. And so this show kind of was able to take in and observe and give us kind of an eye into what that feeling is like, because it doesn't exist here in the US, and I don't know where else that kind of system exists. It might exist in Japan, or they might have, I don't know. I know that they do a special thing for like when you turn a certain age in Japan for the new year, but I don't remember what age exactly that is. But it was cool to see this kind of unique experience from the inside, because like that's not something I ever got to experience or something the people around me got to experience. And honestly, even though like that the age system is different now, I kind of hope that they continue to do this show because it was very interesting to watch. I also was saying this to my sister, like I would super because when I rewatched it, we rewatched it because she hadn't seen it yet. I would really be interested in following, not necessarily following, but coming back to the same group of people and seeing like how they've grown, like now when they're entering their 30s and then like their 40s and their 50s even. Like I would be interested to watch like how much they've grown since then because it was just kind of fun to see them grow. The cast itself, like the people that they cast for this reality show, because it's still a cast, it was very diverse, I believe, in terms of personalities and like aspirations. But of course, it's a Korean reality show, so they were all very beautiful, very handsome, and you know that kind of helps them add to the tension of not being able to date because of course while it's not necessarily a dating show, it's definitely very focused on the dating and the romance of it all. So they had to make sure that everyone was good looking because they had to. And I would say there was a range of good looking. Like I don't think they were all, well, no, they were pretty close to Korean standards, like beauty standards, but I think there was still a little bit of diversity and range in like the types of girls that they had there, the types of guys that they had there. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the cast. Again, no spoilers right now. So I'm just going to have my little list here, so don't worry. My favorite girl was So Hyung. Some of the names are very similar, so please forgive me if I'm pronouncing them incorrectly or if you get confused or I get confused because some of the names are very similar. Like three of the names in particular are incredibly similar to each other. So my favorite girl was So Hyung. She wanted to be an actress, and I think that's why I was drawn to her. She was also like kind of more quiet than I thought she would be. Very beautiful, like otherworldly beautiful. Like she's so, I hope that, like, I haven't seen her do anything yet, but I kind of hope that she's still pursuing her dreams of being an actor and following that because I'd really love to see what she does. And she was also very mature, very responsible. And also for a lot of the show, I think she was sick. And so she unfortunately didn't get a ton of screen time, but I think a part of that is just because she was sick and was probably taking breaks a lot. But I was like, girl, I love you. You're my favorite. I loved her so much. I thought she was so pretty and so mature. And like, I loved her. And I would love to see her in other things and getting the spotlight that she deserves. But I do think that she was sick for a good majority of the filming. And that's probably why they kind of shied away from her a little bit. The next girl I'm just going to give you a little bit of each of these people because I mean, you should go watch this if you find it even a little bit interesting. It's fun. It's interesting to watch. The next person I'll talk about is Heejee. She's one of the other girls. I loved Heejee. Well, okay, so what I say when I was watching the show, even I was saying this. Sohyung is my girl, but Heejee is best girl. I loved her so much. She was just so warm and bubbly and bright and inviting and like always making sure that everyone else was being included in everything that was going on. She wants to be a Pilates teacher, and she just was like very much someone that was always making sure that everyone else was always included in everything that was going on, which is so important to me. Like, just I think that's a good trait to have as a human, and it made her such a joy to watch. And she always seemed to be like having a good time. She was always there to help people if they needed someone to talk to and vent to, or some advice, or even just to like have someone to hang out with. Like, she was always there, and I loved that about her. She is best girl. I loved her so much. One of the other girls is So Hyun. So we have So Hyung, who is my girl. She wants to be an actress. We have So Hyun, who wants to be an architect, and she gave me kind of like cool girl, tomboy vibes. Not like standoffish, but just like she's like the girl that has a bunch of guy friends and they're all like secretly in love with her, but they don't tell her, and she like doesn't really want any part of that. She's like, we're just friends and hanging out. That's what she gave me. I don't know if that's actually who she was, but that's just kind of the vibe that I got from her on the show, and especially initially. I honestly also don't feel like we got to know her too much as the show went on. Like I feel like she was kind of one of the people who was a little bit more closed off. But she just like she seemed cool and very smart and intelligent, and she had some stuff going on as the show went on, but like she just seemed like a cool girl. Like she was cool. I liked her. And then another girl, the fourth girl was, wow, I just lost my place. The fourth girl was Yerin. She wants to be a flight attendant, and she kind of comes off a little bit cold at first. But she's actually like, this gets revealed in the first episode, so it's not a spoiler. She's actually really, really goofy and funny, and like doesn't mind like making people laugh because she's doing something funny, making herself look funny. Like, she's not worried about that at all. She just kind of like, she's just goofy. Like, that's literally the best word to describe her. She's super goofy, and that makes her really fun to watch. And she also is kind of like a hopeless romantic, or at least that's how she comes off to me. She's very beautiful. She's very much like to me, So Hyung is actress, and Yedin to me looks like a model. Like, that's how that is for me. Um, just like looks wise, not like that's what I would think when I see her. I think model, and when I see So Hyung, I think actress. Like, that's just how I think. But I mean, like I said, every single person on the show was beautiful and handsome and very pretty. So like, not speaking like badly about anyone else. That's just what I viewed. But yeah, Yedin was so beautiful. But so goofy. That's my favorite thing about her, is that she's super goofy, and I loved that. Then we'll go on to the boys. The first boy, and he's the first one who comes in, and he was my initial favorite, is Seyun. I hope that that's all right. Okay, so we have Sohyung, Sohyun, and Seyun. Which is why I'm so sorry if I get confused or I'm pronouncing things wrong or I make it too confusing. So sorry. Anyway, Seiyan who was my initial favorite, one of the boys. He is a table tennis player, like professionally, essentially, and he was kind of a bit shy at first, but then as time goes on, you see he's actually like kind of daring, especially when it comes to like romantic gestures, like in a K-drama way. And he's very attractive. Like, he looks like, everyone was saying he looks like he walked out of like a manga. Like, that's how he looks. He does have some kind of like bunny teeth, I would call them. It's just like super cute. But yeah. He gave off K-drama vibes, like K-drama male lead vibes for sure. Another of the boys is Junghyun. Oh, this boy. He wants to be an actor as well. He's very good looking. He gives off very stereotypical actor male lead vibes, like in terms of his looks. He looks very like strong. And this poor boy, the thing that stands out about him the most include, like, from beginning to end, to be honest, the thing that stands out about him the most is he is the least experienced with girls out of all the boys, because he went to an all boys middle school and an all boys high school, and so this is kind of the first time he's interacting in a co-ed environment for school when he goes to school 19. And it, I don't know if he tried to hide it, but if he did, it very much showed. You did do a good job, baby, and I'm so sorry. But it was really fun to watch his growth as the show went on, just because there was so much growth to be had, especially with girls and like pursuing romantic relationships and that kind of a thing. So that was really fun to watch. But yeah, that his biggest standout thing was that he did not know what to do when it came to girls, which was so funny to watch. Another of the guys is Jimin. He does taekwondo, and he said he wanted to be a PE teacher. And honestly, like I said, they're all good looking. He's not really my type. Not that they need to be my type. They don't. Also, they're like really young, so but he just kind of like personality wise came off as a little bit dull in the beginning for me. But he also seemed like he came off as kind of dull, but he also seemed very kind, and he kind of gives off golden retriever energy. Especially as the show goes on, that gets stronger. Like, he just seems like a really nice, kind dude. And then the last guy, the fourth guy, is Sungwon. He's incredibly smart, wants to work in robotics, and a fun fact about him, which is what he says, is that he had already finished his first year of college when he entered school 19, so he'd actually be a sophomore when all the other kids would be entering their freshman year of college. And so because of that, I think he just comes off as more mature than the others do. And because he's had a little bit more experience of this kind of like adult life, or maybe not adult, but young adult life, because he's already had that first year. But that's kind of all of the cast, the four boys, the four girls. And in the very first episode of the show, you kind of see some beginnings of, I don't want to call it romance, but it's like intrigue. Like, people were starting to get interested in each other. I don't want to go too into that because I don't want to go into spoiler territory. But like you can tell just with the camera cuts and when they cut from one person to another person and the looks that were happening, you can tell like who is a little interested in who. And this is literally the first day, the first time, like the first few hours that they're meeting. And so I don't want to say that any solid relationships formed in that span of time, but definitely interest was peaked with certain people. They all did their little introductions and introduced themselves to each other, and then so we were introduced as the audience to them as well. Some people had some similar interests, like two of the boys, Seon and Junghyun, were both into watching soccer, so that was kind of fun to see them bond over that a little bit. They also seated all of the kids. Feels weird to call them kids, but they're kids. They also seated all of the cast. Feels weird to say. Boy, girl, of course, and they did it by like last name order, I think. So people were paired up like that, and so they would talk to their seatmates a little bit. They had like lunch. Oh, they also did their first. They had two clubs for while they were at the school. So one was an astronomy club led by Sungwon, and the other was a table tennis club led by Seon. And so they were the kind of the captains, and then they each like they would have half of the group there and half of the group there. So it would be each of them, and then 3 other people would join their groups. Some people were thinking, oh, I'm going to join this club because the person I'm interested in is going to join that club. And then other people were thinking not that at all. We're like, oh, I've never done that before. I want to try that. It was very interesting to see that, especially when there was one girl. This is sort of a spoiler, but I'm not going to say who it is, so it's not actually a spoiler. When there was one girl who you think would join a certain club because the person she's interested in is in that club, and then she doesn't, and everyone is very confused. We're like, what the heck? Like, why didn't she? Like, me and my sister were looking at each other like, I mean, I already knew, but she was looking at me like, she didn't join that club, and I was like, nope, no, she didn't. Isn't that surprising? And then later you find out why. Like, there's a reasoning behind it, but it's fun to see that, and that added a little aspect. And then they also had a lot of like break times. Like, they're not just in classes the whole time that they're there. They have little break times. They have these really cool. They have a little like snack room where you can go and buy snacks, and they have like some other rooms where they can just kind of hang out. There's a library, and some stuff happens there, and it was really fun. It's a fun show to watch, and it's very interesting to watch kids like kind of find their own way when they're becoming adults. But that's kind of like the gist of the show and the cast of the show, just like a very brief gist and cast of the show. So if that's interesting to you at all and you don't want any spoilers, I would suggest clicking away now, because I'm going to go into spoiler territory now. So sorry. Some of these spoilers range from, like, I think I'm doing the spoilers kind of in order of the show. So if I get to a certain part of the spoilers and you're like, wait, no, actually I want to like watch this, I don't want any more spoilers, stop when you hear that spoiler. I'm gonna go in order of the show, okay? Cool. Okay. But this is spoiler territory, so click away if you don't want to hear any spoilers, okay? And I'll call you back in when it's time. Cool. Okay, so even though they're like, hey, we have 4 boys and 4 girls, actually it's not. It's 5 boys and 5 girls. They added 2 new characters in. When this happened, the first time I watched it, I was like, we have to watch the next episode, because I wanted to see the people, and I think I only watched the first 5 minutes so I could see what they looked like. So the next boy that gets added is best boy Pyeong-seok. I love him. I love him so much. He is from Daegu, and I believe he's the one traveling the farthest, because most of them are all from either Seoul or the Seoul area, but he's coming from Daegu, which is super far away, about 3 hours, I believe. He wants to teach Hapkido, which is what his father owns like a Hapkido studio, and he drives the car for it and like teaches the little kids at the studio, and it's so cute to watch him. He's just the best boy. He's so sweet. He's so funny. He's so nice. He's just, and he's like kind of like innocent a little bit, or like naive, not naive. He comes off as naive. I don't think he actually was super naive. He was a little bit, just because he gives that like country boy vibe. Don't think country like US, like, but think like if you've watched K-dramas, like Korea country boy, like that's the vibe he gives off. It's so cute. I love him so much. And then Jiwoo is the girl who wants to be a flight attendant. She's not my favorite, and I will go into more detail on why that is. She's very cutesy, very tiny, and I don't want to go into too much. I don't want to speak badly of her because like they're very young and this all happened in such a short amount of time. But there were just some things that she did, some choices she made that I was like, I don't really like that. Um, I think a lot was happening all at once, and so I can't blame her for anything. Also, like they're really, really young, so I can't blame her for anything. But she's just not my favorite of the contestants, unfortunately. But she's very cute. She's very, very cute. Um, and she had a lot of patience for a particular person as time went on that I was like, you know what, you're better than me. So, um, the first thing that I want to talk about, spoiler wise, is the book incident with Seon and Yerin. When he gives her that book when they're in the library, they're like spending their time looking and they peek through the like it makes me like the I didn't talk about this in the non-spoiler section. That's okay. I'll talk about it at the end. I love the hosts of the show too. They're so fun. They're so funny. There was one thing that I didn't agree with them on, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. We don't need to agree on everything. But they were so fun and funny, and I love that a lot of these shows do this where they have hosts. It just adds kind of some more dynamics to everything going on. And I think it also allows for some wiggle room in terms of how much drama they're trying to get out of the contestants because the hosts can kind of play stuff up themselves and add more drama themselves. And that way we're not like really messing with people's actual lives and emotions too much. I think it just adds an extra thing, and I really appreciate that. Anyway, the book incident, they said it that it made them be like, oh, that's why people like library or bookstore like dates. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that makes me want to go on like a date or be with like the person I'm interested in at the library. We like peek through the bookshelves and like look at each other, we like whisper through, so cute, so fun. So they were doing all that, and then he hands her the book that's like, I think it's called like I See You Like I See a Flower, which one, just the title alone is like, and then the way he handed it to her when he goes, oh my god, I can't even say it. The way he handed it to her when he's like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like really cold outside to carry these books back, and she was like, oh, well, do you want me to put it in here? Because she had like a big coat. She's like, that's how she was gonna carry the book she was giving to someone else too. Oh, she was gonna carry it in her coat so it wasn't too cold. He was like, yeah, here, you just take it. And that's how he gave it to her, and it was giving off like, I picked it up on the way, but I loved it. It was so like, she was like, and she was the girl, she in earlier in the show mentioned that like she'd never had her heart flutter before, and so that's why she'd never really been in a relationship. And she was like, you could tell she was like, it was like a heart fluttering moment. And that's when I realized like Sam, not that he's got game or like riz, I don't even like saying that, but it was just like, oh, okay, he's done a little studying. It was like it came right out of a K-drama. So I was like, okay, you're not exactly the shy guy that I thought you were. You're actually like a little bit bolder than that. So that was kind of fun to see. Next, I'm going to talk about the Disco Pong Pong ride thing and the Ferris wheel thing when they went on their field trip to the amusement park on the like pier, I think it was. The Disco Pong Pong thing really upset me because I felt so bad for So-hyung. Not even just like the situation itself, but I felt like the hosts of the show didn't say anything about her the whole time. I felt so bad for her. Like my heart was breaking for her. I was watching as her heart was breaking when Jiwoo slid on the thing into Jimin. And also you could tell that like Jimin had already started to kind of distance himself from So-hyung around this time, like when they were forming their groups and they were the only couple who was gonna get split up. I was like, y'all, like this is not fair. Like I don't know if there was some other way. I mean, a couple was gonna have to be split up either way, but I was just like, why my girl, why her, she didn't do anything. And seeing Ju like slide, and like later on like in the reunion they asked her like, did you do it on purpose? She was like, I did. And I was like, girl. And I get it. Like, and me and my sister were talking about, like, I think this is the problem that both of us have when we watch a show like this, is whatever initial couple forms, I get attached to them, and then I don't think about, like, the whole purpose of the show is for them to kind of explore different relationships, and then when they do that, I get, like, a little irritated. I just want everyone, like, I guess I wouldn't mind it as much if someone didn't get left out, but, like, inevitably someone's going to get left out every time, and that makes me sad. But I'm still gonna watch the reality show. Like, I love it. It's the drama. I love it. I live for it. The stress. Because it's not my stress. It's their stress. Yeah, that really broke my heart. And then the Ferris wheel later on, like you could tell, oh, when my girl So Young is like, does anyone want to go with me? And she's looking at Jimin when she asks, because they had kind of been a thing at this point. Like that was I was established on like the first day, because they decide to join the club together. Like they both want to go to the same club. That they're very interested in each other. And he like kind of like avoids her, and then he's like, I'll just go with whoever's left. I was like, no, my heart broke for her. My heart broke. Ugh, yeah, that killed me. That made me really upset. That whole thing happened. And but I really loved that Heejee was like, Pyeongseok and I are gonna go together, and he was like, okay, like, he was like, yeah, okay, I'm down. I love that they were seated next to each other when they had to reshuffle everyone when the two new students got added in, because I just think they're perfect for each other. I just think they are. They're perfect for each other. I love them so much. Um, the dream dates when they then moved into house 20. First of all, they moved into house 20 and it was like the guys like looked nice out of their uniforms, but it's like how different are they gonna look? But the girls all looked so cute, especially my girl So Young, and Heejee looked so cute. I was like, I love seeing her in her little skirt, her little outfit. It was so cute. And then Yedin's new hair color, I saw a lot of people talking online saying that they didn't like it, and I think she does look nice with the darker hair, but I think the lighter hair like just kind of suits her and her personality for me for some reason. And I thought she looked gorgeous. So I don't know what everyone else was saying and what everyone else was thinking, but I thought she looked beautiful. Like that was I thought she looked so good. All the girls looked really cute when they came to House 20, and all the boys you could see were like like they were shocked, which was really cute to watch. And I liked the little celebration they had. The drinking was kind of a lot for some of them, and I was like, we need to slow down. I know we're excited, but let's slow it down a little bit. But then when the dream dates got introduced, I was like, ooh, like that's a really fun aspect to kind of throw in there and get the romance going, but to also say like even if you don't go on a dream date, you can still go on like a more casual date with whoever you want to. I also like that the dream dates, it was all like consent. Like your partner has to say yes before you can say you're going to go on the dream date, because then it doesn't put anyone in an uncomfortable situation. And it can give people time, like even if they say yes initially, if they think about it a little bit and they want to change their mind, like they're able to do that. And then I think that that was a really important thing to put into place, and no one was forced to go on a date with someone that they didn't want to go on in a way that made it uncomfortable. And I also liked how some of the people treated it as like if they knew that they didn't really have anyone they were like really interested in, then they could go with just kind of whoever. And while it killed me with like Heejee and Pyeongseok, like I wanted them to be able to go on two dream dates, it was a good idea to put into place the rule that you can only go on a dream date with one person, and then after that you guys can't pair up again, because it adds a little bit more, I mean, from a like a reality TV producing standpoint, like it adds some more drama into things, and it also just kind of adds a nice twist to things, and then the same people aren't just going on a date, you know, a couple of times or whatever. Um and you can do that if you want to, like for a casual date, but just like the dream date specifically, you could. I just thought that that was a nice rule to put in place, but I just wish that they had made an exception for Heejee and Pyeongseok because I feel like they deserved it. What else do I have written here? Oh, Jimin and Sohyung's really bad date when he was trying to break up with her. I fully like I just have to continue to remind myself that this happened in such a short span of time and that they're very young, but it still was very disappointing but expected to see that Jimin was like, I just felt so bad for Sohyung because one, you could tell that she was sick, not feeling super great, and two, I just it was really rough to sit there and watch her continue to try to make conversation with him, even just mundane conversation when they're on their date, and him just kind of like shutting it down and not saying anything back, like not even reacting back. And I understand it's because he was no longer interested in her and he was interested in Jiwoo, but it was just like not the best way to go about that. But I also like need to remind myself that they're learning and they're young, and hopefully he's learned that that wasn't the best way to handle things, and hopefully going forward he doesn't do that anymore. I just wish that he would have said it to her instead of just kind of trying to cut things off and hope that she took the hint, which she did. She took the hint very quickly, because she's not like completely oblivious to that. But it was just like a really rough way and uncomfortable way to have to do that. And then he did later apologize to her in the show, so I appreciated that. But it was just like, man, it was just rough to watch and it made me feel so bad for her. And she's my girl, so I felt like extra bad. Um, the Jiwoo complications is what I have written here. Again, reminding myself she's still very young and it all happened in a very short amount of time. I just could not help but feel like she was leading all of the boys on. Like, I found it, and a lot of the hosts found that it was very obvious very early on that not Pyeongseok. Oh my gosh. No, not she wasn't interested in him at all. Ugh. Junghyun, that she was interested in Junghyun from she was interested in him from the very beginning, but it was very obvious that her feelings for him were the strongest out of the other two boys, like out of all three of the boys that she ended up like sort of having interests with, or who were at least were interested in her. Like, to me, it was very obvious that Junghyun was one that she had like actual feelings for, and I felt like she just really liked the attention she was getting from the other two boys. Jimin thankfully moved on very fast. Well, I don't know if it's thankfully or not. It was kind of a lot. But it was just like she kept changing what she was saying. She was like, well, I was interested in Junghyun and Jimin from the beginning. And then she said, no, I was interested in Junghyun and Seon from the beginning. And I was like, girl, you're changing your words. Like, who was it from the beginning? Like, it could have changed as time has gone on. Like, sure, that makes sense. But from the beginning, like, don't change what, like, I just felt like she was kind of backtracking on things and that she didn't handle things in the best way. And it really did feel like she was leading boys on when it was obvious that, like, Junghyun was the one that she actually liked. Especially when in half of her interviews, like, when she went on dates with other people, she was like, oh, well, I wish Junghyun had done this, but it was nice that Seon did this or Jimin did this. And she's like, oh, I just couldn't stop thinking about Junghyun, but like I had fun on the date with Jimin, or I had fun on the date with. It was like, if you're going to mention Junghyun every time you also talk about the date with the other guy that you went with it on, it's very obvious that Junghyun is the one that you have feelings for. And like, of course, like maybe you like the attention, or maybe you really do enjoy their company, but it's not. It was just obvious that like her feelings were so much stronger for Junghyun than anyone else. And I just felt like she was kind of leading people on. And I think a part of it was just like, it made me feel bad for the other girls who were interested in these guys who had now turned and were interested in Jiwoo. Especially when Junghyun liked her from the beginning. Like, it was like love at first sight for him. Like, that's what I saw, at least, from the viewer standpoint. So I just wish that it could have been handled a little bit better. It felt like she was leading them on. I don't know if she actually was trying to do that, or if that's how the other boys felt. Or if she really, like, I don't know, because I'm not her and I wasn't physically there. That's just what it looked like to me. And again, she's young and this all happened really, really fast. They're all young, and so I have to give her, you know, a little bit more leeway. But it was just like, oh, I wish that this had been handled better, because it really just felt like she liked the attention, and couldn't differentiate liking the attention and liking the actual guy, which was kind of unfortunate for everyone involved. But it is what it is. Junghyun also, I have to give her credit though, because he was so frustrating when he's like, I understand from his perspective that like there are some things, like some people just don't feel comfortable with like there's different love languages, right? Some people don't feel comfortable with like words of affection. Some people are more into like physical things or giving gifts or spending time than words of affection, affirmation. It's not affection, it's words of affirmation. Some people can't say their actual feelings, and they show it more than they say it. And they say it a little bit, but it's all in their actions. Some people prefer to show things, and some people also prefer to see things shown rather than just being told, and some people prefer to tell things and also prefer to be told those things than to see it shown to them. Like, instead of like, some people prefer always saying how they're feeling, like, I love you so much, I care about you so much, and some people prefer to hear that, and that's their preferred way of like getting their affirmation that this person cares about them and likes them. And some people can't do that, and instead they are like, they notice they're cold, so they give them a jacket without saying anything, or they notice what their favorite drink is, and so when the next time they go to the store, they bring that. And some people prefer to also receive love and affection through that way. Not everyone loves the same way that other people do, and I think that the way that Jiwoo wanted to receive love and affection and the way that Junghyun gave love and affection, I don't think those were compatible. And so that was like frustrating to watch, because I wanted her to give him more time. Like, this is the first time he's interacting with girls, especially in a romantic sense. And so I really wish that she had given him a little bit more compassion and time. But there were also moments where I was like, Junghyun, like, get it together, my guy. Like, it was like very obvious hilarious of things that he could have done. And then by the end of it, she was literally just giving him instructions like, I need you to tell me this, I need you to say this, which is like great communication going on there. So like kudos to her for that. But it was just like, man, like it was frustrating. Like I felt bad for everyone involved essentially. I want to talk about Heejee and Pyeongseok being the perfect Oasis couple. I was telling my sister, like, my sister was getting frustrated while we were watching it, and she was like, I can't take this anymore. And I was like, no, but I promise you there's a couple that's just going to be your perfect Oasis couple. There's not going to be anything wrong with them. They're going to have, like, no drama. It's going to be so good. Like, don't worry. There is a couple that we can cut back to when we all need, like, a collective breath. And it was Heejee and Pyeongseok, and they were just best boy, best girl, best couple. I love them so much. They deserve the world. I kept calling them mom and dad because I felt like they were mom and dad of the house. And every time that Pyeongseok had his little apron on, he's cleaning or cooking, and then Heejee's there to help him out, I was just like, mom and dad, I love you. And they were also people that like everyone in the house seemed like they felt like they could go to for advice, or to just, they needed someone to lend an ear, that they could talk to. Like, I was just like, they were perfect. The only thing was when Heejee got hurt that one time, and Pyeongseok like fully blamed himself, and I was like, buddy, it was an accident, it's okay. And even she like, but they cleared that up so fast. It was just like, that was my Oasis couple. I loved watching them. They made me feel like love is real. And as far as I know, they're still together. So very happy, very exciting. I think they have a YouTube channel also, so maybe check that out if you really like them. They had the messiest night ever. I don't remember what episode it is. I think it's like episode 10 or episode 11, where everyone's freaking out, and it's the two, because there's the 2 day trips, and first everyone is so excited, and then to see these emotions rise and then fall, like plummet to the ground, was crazy. I think it was towards the end of kind of their journey and their time together. I think everyone was exhausted emotionally and just like physically exhausted, and it's their first time being adults and experiencing all these relationships and friendships and dates and romance, and being away from their family for that long, I think was probably the first time for a lot of them. And so I think it was a lot of things all mixed together, and then the excitement turned into like just everyone was crying. Ju and Junghyun were having issues. Ju had just gone on her date with Seon, and then Junghyun was all excited to go on the dream date with someone else that wasn't her, and she was like losing her mind. And then that made Seon sad, because Seon was like, we just had a really great date together, but you're crying over him, so obviously you like him more. But then Seon was still like, I'm still gonna go for her though. And I was like, buddy, that was your time to step back. But he didn't. But you know, he was really going for what his heart wanted, so I have to give him that. That whole thing was happening, and then Yerin and Jimin had gone on a date previously, and they had a really good time together. And I think that they're a very volatile couple in terms of how emotional both of them are, but I think they kind of work. But they were having issues because Jimin like basically just poured his heart out to her, and she was like so thankful, like, that you, oh my gosh. And then he was like, so you're gonna use your date? And she's like, no, you have to use your date, because like whoever uses the date could like can't go on another date, and so like whoever doesn't use their date could potentially go with someone else. And Yerin was worried that he was going to use his date with Jiwoo if she used it, and then he was like, why do you need to use why can't we use your dream date, Yerin? Because like you don't need to go with anyone else, and you know I don't want to go with anyone else, and like I just poured my heart out to you, so you should trust me. Like, why can't you trust me enough to use your own dream date and we don't use mine? It was like a whole thing. It was like watching them like woo would just crash. I was like, man, that's crazy. But like they were all feeling a lot. Everyone was just very, very tired. And then it was really funny to me to watch Sohyung, who was clearly still sick at this point, going over to Heejee and Pyeongseok and being like, I'm just gonna hang out with you guys because it's scary over there. And Heejee and Pyeongseok the whole time were like, should we go on the date? But everyone else wants to go on the date. They're like, we could wait for a different one. Like they weren't involved in any of that drama. It was like crazy to watch. Oh man. Yeah. And then the very last like thing that I want to talk about is when Sohyun overhears the conversation that Sangwon and Sohyun were having together, where Sohyun basically was saying like, I'm not really interested in you. Like she had already like told that to him. Like she wasn't sure if she just felt like they were friends, and so she didn't want to like keep doing things with him. She wanted to kind of explore other options with other guys, even though everyone was kind of paired up at this point anyway, so it didn't really matter. But anyway, also there was noise. And then Sangwon like overheard not overheard, but heard Sohyung and Sohyun talking about, like, he was there and they were all talking about how, like, oh, the girls talk to each other and kind of help each other clear things up. And then Sohyun was like, but, like, ultimately you come to your own decision. And Sohyun was like, yeah, I came to my own decision about, like, how I was feeling, blah, blah, blah. And so Songun, like, basically was blaming Sohyun because he didn't want to come to terms with the fact that Sohyun wasn't super interested in him like he thought she was, and, like, was trying to make it seem like So-hyung was, like, bad-mouthing him, and he was like, I'm not trying to bad-mouth her, but I don't think, like, you should totally trust her because she said that she's interested in me and has feelings for me, and so, like, she might be trying to lead you down the wrong path, so that way you're not into me anymore, so that I'm, like, fair game for her, and, like, more open, even though previously Sangwon and So-hyung had just had a date, and she was like, oh, I'd love to go on another date with you, like, they had a dream date, because she'd asked him beforehand, and he was like, yeah, sure, and she was like, I'd love to go on another date with you, and he was like, oh yeah, I'd totally go on another date with you, when it's like, clearly, why did you say that if you're clearly all in on So-hyun, and, like, and then he was like, I'm not trying to badmouth her, and I was like, you're badmouthing her though, and then the camera, like, this serious conversation is happening, and he's up, and apparently it was much harsher in Korean than the actual translations were. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've seen a couple of different people say on the internet. I don't know how true that is. Either way, it wasn't a good look for him. He was basically being like, oh, don't, like, listen to So-hyung because, like, she might steer you the wrong way because she's into me. And it was like, dude, like, chill. Like, the girls talk, but it's not anything like that. Like, they're gonna come to their own decisions, you know? Like, we can't be convinced by someone else. Um, Already a bad look, and then they're having this conversation, and then Yenin comes in, and she's like, oh, this looks serious. She's like, I'll leave. And Song was like, no, you can stay. And he was like, first he was like, maybe you should go. He's like, oh, whatever, you can stay, because they're not talking about her. And then she's like, no, I'll leave, I'll go. And then she goes to the bathroom, which is connected to the girls' room where Sangwon and So-hyun were talking, and as she enters the girls' bathroom, she, like, turns the corner, and everyone, the camera and everyone sees So-hyun was in the bathroom, like, closet area, and heard the whole conversation happening. She just looks at Yenin and goes, shh. And Yenna's like, oh, what? And then the camera cuts. And that was the end of the episode. And the shock on my face when I first watched it, and then the shock I saw on my sister's face when we were rewatching it with her, and it was her first time watching it, priceless. Oh my gosh. It's just like, it's like, oh, everyone feels bad. It's like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? Yeah, that was really, really crazy. Yeah, it was a good show, honestly. It was very fun, very exciting, some very frustrating moments, some people that I didn't necessarily weren't my favorite, but, like, they're all young, it's all happening really fast, and it's still, like, interesting and fun to watch how they kind of interact with each other. That's the end of my spoiler section, so you're safe now if you don't want to listen to any more spoilers, and yeah, no more spoilers after this. I didn't mention this earlier, and I should have. I really loved the hosts of the show. I mentioned it in the spoiler section, so sorry if you've already heard this whole spiel, but I gotta give it in case people didn't want to listen to the spoilers. I love that that Korean shows and, like, I think Japanese and Chinese shows, like, there's probably other countries that do stuff like this too, but with their reality shows, they have these hosts that they cut back and forth from. I think it really adds a fun dynamic to this kind of a show, and also allows for there to be some drama made by the hosts versus all the drama having to come from the contestants and the cast, because I feel like a lot of, like, I'm specifically thinking of, like, Bachelor, Bachelorette, Bachelor in Paradise, all the drama has to kind of come from the people on the show because there's not anyone to talk about it. And so, like, you know, there's some not great stuff that happens on these shows, and some people get, like, you know, really hurt emotionally from being on these shows. And I think that while that's definitely still a possibility for shows that do have hosts, I think that the hosts can add some more drama themselves to things, and they also eat up some more time, and because of that, I feel like the drama isn't all relying on the cast and the characters of the show themselves. It can come from the host too, so I think that it adds a little bit of a breath, and it just adds a more fun dynamic to the shows. I really love that these shows have these hosts that we can cut back to, and normally they're, like, comedians or things like that, and I really, really enjoy that aspect of it. I thought it was really nice to see, like, how deep the friendships that these cast members formed with each other were, and, like, I can tell that they're people who probably will remain friends for a very long time, if not forever. Maybe not forever, but for a very long time at the very least. because they were going through such an important time in their life all together, and they were having fun, and they were going through emotional moments together, and like you build bonds with people when there's like stressful things happening, but also when there's happy things happening. That was really fun, and it was cool to watch these people like grow up a little. And I don't remember how I was at that age. I just know that I was very insecure. Like, I'm trying to think back. Like, I graduated high school, it was like my first couple years of college. I was very insecure, very shy. I didn't think anyone liked me. And I never ever could have gone on a show like that before. And I don't think I could have handled any of those situations as maturely as any of those people did. So while I do have some criticisms of some of the people, or some of the way, not the people, but some of the ways that they handled things, like, I don't think I could have done any better at that age. So again, I have to like take a step back and remind myself they're very young, and it all happened very fast. But yeah, I never could have done a show like that. And I also thought that it was obviously very focused on the romance, but they also still included like the friendships and the important moments in those friendships, and they all genuinely seem to get along with each other, like the boys, the girls, them with each other. And it's just cool to see a special bond form between people going through like a similar time in their life. It was just really nice to see. And I loved the friendships that they formed. I really loved I loved seeing Hiji and her relationship with all the girls, and like at the very end of the show they all wrote letters. This isn't really a spoiler, but it is sort of, because it's at the end of the show. At the end of the show they all wrote letters to each other, and that was really sweet to watch. Some of them were read out loud, some of them they like just talked to each other, and that definitely brought tears for me, brought tears for some of the cast members, and some of the cast members that you don't expect to cry were sobbing, so that was crazy. But it's just very sweet to see people be friends with each other even amidst all this like drama happening, and how they could handle things. Um the lesson, TLDR, is it's really hard to make the transition into adulthood. Even now in my like mid to late 20s, I still feel like I'm not fully transitioned into being an adult. I'm definitely way closer than I was before, but it's like it's hard. It's hard to make that transition and to like take that next step in your life. And so it was very interesting to get to watch these people do this. And I think like it's important, like, to give yourself and those around you a little bit more grace, and a little bit more patience, just because we're all learning how to be adults. And I don't think that that feeling ever really stops until maybe you're like way older, or maybe it never stops, I don't know. But I think like we're all always learning, and learning to be an adult can be really difficult. So just do your best with what you have for now, and also try to have some fun along the way. Like, don't let the responsibility take away from like having fun and enjoying what it means to like be an adult. I always say like it's important to like get back in touch with like your kid side and your like childlike wonder, which like that's important too, but it's also important to like kind of appreciate the freedoms that you get being an adult, and like the stuff you can do, and like the relationships you can form now that you're older, and like you have different responsibilities, and like how that all can grow, and how you can grow with the other people around you. I just think all of that's really special and fun, and something that you should like appreciate and take in when you have the time to. But yeah, 19 to 20, super fun show. Check it out. I didn't even get into like all the big, I think I got into like the major things that happened, but I didn't get into like some of the other like incidents that happen throughout the show. So even if you listen to the whole spoiler section, there's still tons to watch on the show. It's just a fun show. It's on Netflix. It's easy to watch. I'm sure there's other places you can watch it too. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you have a lovely rest of your morning, evening, night, day, week, weekend, whatever it is for you. And I will see you next time. Love, Mikaela. Bye.